Squirrel Shop here. Today we have a 2008 Triumph Speed Triple that we're doing a refresh on the front forks on. Per usual, we'll do an accelerated video. I already have the forks removed from the bike because if you can't get this far on your own, you don't need to be touching the forks. So, start off, here's the fork. I'm going to set it in my fork press and we'll talk about the tools needed for the job today. Okay, so you're going to need a 17 millimeter wrench, a 15. You're going to need a fork seal driver of some kind. You're going to need a scratch-free pry bar. These are from Harbor Freight. They're for doing body work. They cost next to nothing. Flat blade screwdriver of some kind. Some zip ties. You're going to need a 22 millimeter socket and a 32. You'll need, of course, your fork seals, your dust wipes, your fork oil, and today we need new bushings all around. I'll get to that. Okay, so breaking this loose, first order of business with your fork is to take off all of the preload. So preload is taken off. I'll pop this cap loose. Drop the body of the fork down. So this is what it looks like now. Okay. I actually already disassembled all of these parts just to accelerate this video. So I'm just going to show you disassembly, even though there's no oil in it currently. Different companies make different tools to do this job. I built this myself. It works really well. So the top of your cap is a 17 millimeter. Actually, I lied. This bottom nut is a 14 millimeter. When you back this nut off, all you want to do is break it loose. Watch. Broken loose. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to take any more tension off that nut. That's all you need. And then you take this portion off. You don't want to be spinning this nut any more than necessary. Okay, next order of business, zip tie. It's time to take compression off. As always, pay attention to the order that things come off in. There's this little ring here, little washer. It goes on top of this piece. This piece may come off depending on where you're at in the fork. Actually, remove the spring. Okay, important little part about the spring. In this particular model of bike, it's decreasing the number of coils. The tighter the coil goes down in the fork. Pop like this loose. I really don't like using metal on anything aluminum, so I'm just going to start it. There's the dust seal, came up nice. Inside here is your clip ring. Pop that out carefully and take it off the body of the fork very carefully, making sure it can't scratch the fork piston. Okay, now you can literally basically use the internals of the fork as a slide hammer. There's that seal. Okay, so important little part I need to show you guys next is the bushings, because this set needs replaced. Again, I'm using a scratch-free pry bar. Okay, look at the inside of that bushing. You see all that copper showing? Teflon coating's worn off. That bushing needs replaced. Let's set it aside. Look at this next bushing. Be checking out the outside of this one. Copper showing again. That bushing is worn out. Now I want to show you a comparison. Here's the larger of the two bushings. Look at that inside and out. The smaller of the two. See, it's copper all the way around on the inside. Teflon coated on the outside. Another little important piece of information. This ring right here. It's got a flat side and a round side. The round side is what is currently the top side, what my finger is touching. It stays up on the fork. You put that in wrong, your forks will probably leak. Okay, that's as disassembled as you need to be. Now, clean all of your parts very thoroughly. Clean workstation, clean hands, and clean parts are a must in this process. I use some spray cleaner. I've actually already done that on these, so I'm just going to do a quick touch-up. Normally after opening you would drain the forks. I feel like that's obvious, but just in case. I had already drained them, already cleaned these, so I'm not showing that part. Okay. Once again, already prepped these parts. So your bleed holes here, I've put electrical tape, just simple electrical tape over the top of the bleed hole, because that's a raw machined edge and it can make a cut of some kind in your seal and make your forks leak again. So simple electrical tape, put that on there. You can put electrical tape over all of the machined portions of this. Here, let me show you. See these raw edges? Those could cut your seal when you put it on. If you don't have these fork bullet tools that I use, put some tape over them. It's easy. So, here's your seal. I want to show you the difference between the top and the bottom. It's kind of hard to tell, but the groove inside here is a little bit deeper. That groove goes up. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. So, put just a tiny bit of grease on the inside edge, just a little bit. It doesn't need a lot. This just aids in the installation. Same thing with your dust seal. Just a little bit of grease on that inside raw edge. Okay, first thing that'll go on is your dust seal. Just going to push on, nice and easy. Push it all the way down. Again, make sure that the deeper portion of the groove on your seal goes up toward the camera. Push that on, down. Now we're done with this. We're done with the tape. They don't go on that easy if you don't tape them and if you don't grease them. It's a simple little trick that helps a lot. Wipe everything down again. Okay. Our new bushings are going to go on. The bigger of the two first. Smaller one snaps right in. Okay. You know what? I forgot something very important. Look at me making mistakes in an instructional video. I forgot the single directional washer. Again, this is the round side. It goes up. And by up, I mean the direction that I'm putting the fork together. You might be orienting your directions differently, so be aware of that. You want to spread these a little as you slide them on. Okay. I'm going to set this to the side for a moment. Next thing we want to do for ease of installation, once again, a tiny little spot of grease on the inside where the outside of the seal seats. Press that seal home with your hands. Now we're ready for the slide hammer. With grease on it, it should go in really easily. There it goes. You just need it far enough that it's past the little retaining ring lip. Once again, constantly recleaning. I like to start this retaining ring up here at the top. That way, if somehow I create a tiny scratch, it's not likely to cause any problems. Popped in place. Next, the dust seal. Dust seals, the new dust seals should just pop in place by hand. Okay, there we go. It's fully, well, not fully reassembled, that's currently reassembled. Okay, now that the fork is in the compressor, we're ready for fork oil. No spring yet. The specs say 120 millimeters from the top, fully compressed, or, let me double check here, 469 cc's. So that's another way to do it, is you can get a measuring cup and measure it out exactly. I don't prefer that method. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do, now that we put some oil in it, is we're going to cycle the piston inside. Up and down, until we hear all the bubbles are out and we start seeing it pumping fluid. Right now you can hear it pumping air. You don't want any air in your system, so this is very important. Okay, once we're satisfied with that, I use this Motion Pro fork level tool. It's preset by me to 120 milliliters from the top. So we'll drop this down on there, and we're just sucking all the excess fluid off. You go until it sucks air. It means you're at the right level. Set that aside. It's time for the spring. Remember the direction of the spring. ready to compress again. Your seal and your bushing. And don't forget the washer. Next, your cap with your dampening rod. Screw it down until it touches the lock nut. Don't allow it to turn the lock nut, as I mentioned before. Run that lock nut back up tight. You're ready to cut this off. We're done with it. Now we're ready to decompress. Slide the fork tube up, set it in place, and seat. That completes. Obviously, don't forget to return them back to whatever their original pre-settings were and reinstall with correct torque specs. Hope that helps you guys.